Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Oral Communication in Context. We are now at our fourth week, and our topic for this week is functions of communication. So we will discuss the functions of communication and respond to an effective communication considering gender roles in home and society on a day-to-day interaction. So for this one, we will have the introduction. So communication is viewed as the process through which organizations emerge and evolve, and the basis upon which individuals, relationships, groups, and organizations relate to their surroundings and to one another. So basically, it is simply the act of transferring information from one place, person, or group to another. Every communication involves one sender, a message, and a recipient. This may sound simple, but communication is actually a very complex subject. So the term communication is freely used by everyone in modern society, including members of the general public, scholars, and management practitioners. Communication is defined as the interaction, giving, and taking of information, sending and receiving of messages through verbal and non-verbal means. So basically, we have categories and functions of communication, and we will be discussing it in our next slide. So we have functions of communication. So functions of communication vary as one must determine to the function of communication. It is known as the informal function, regulation control or control function, motivation or persuasion function, social interaction function, and emotional appeal function. For informal function, communication functions to convey information. So generally, or basically, an organization needs a vast amount of information to function and operate a business. Without this essential information, they won't be able to have a successful operation of business. That's why they need to communicate. The top management would require timely information to students, to timely and accurate information for the various departments to make effective decisions. In school, teachers give information to students during the discussion of a lesson or during an activity. So without this information, the student won't be able to learn his or her lesson. Also, through information function, there is a knowledge acquisition in the communication, and like that we have in the example in school, it is made possible because of the information given to the given and to and received by the student. So there is already an acquired knowledge because of the information that was communicated effectively. We also have here regulation control or regulation control function. So for this one, communication functions to control behavior. The management of any organization will always have plans with long, medium, or long-term objectives for the months and years ahead. To achieve these objectives, the daily and monthly activities must proceed as planned in order to achieve the objectives for the period. So through this regulation slash control function, there is an effective communication in successfully achieving the objectives or the plans by the said organization. We also have motivation or slash persuasion function. So communication motivates or encourages people to live better. Persuasion usually involves the selling of an idea, products, or services to a person or group. Persuasive words or actions, there is a better chance of the person or group accepting it. So this will result in voluntary compliance. So if you are communicating and it encourage people to live better and it motivate people to live better, so you have this motivation or persuasion function. We also have here the social interaction function. So communication allows individuals to interact with others during formal or informal events and gatherings. And last but not the least is the emotional appeal function. So communication facilitates people's expression of their feelings and emotions. So basically, this happens when emotions or arguments are used to persuade others instead of facts or logics. So example, organizations can use emotional appeals when delivering bad news. And so we have here an situation, an example situation. So last year, the CEO spoke to the entire company at an emergency meeting, and he explained how devastated he was over the need to have a corporate downsizing. So he used emotion to explain that it was better for the overall security of the company to eliminate some positions. So these are some of the functions of communications. And then, now, let's proceed in identifying the speaker's purpose. Now we have know the functions of communication. Let's try to understand why the speaker wanted to communicate with us. So the speaker is the primary source of communication. A speaker tends to start the message and deliver it to the listener. A speaker may deliver his speech through various purposes, and the most common purpose of a speaker is to inform, to persuade, to entertain, and to inspire. So, first one is to inform. So, normally, when a speaker is informing, its main purpose is for informing his listeners by giving lectures, demonstrations, briefings, and trainings. So here the audience are able to learn something about what the speaker have said. Also, the speaker is trying to persuade. So mainly, a speaker tends to persuade and convince his listeners to listen to him attentively and agree with him what is he saying. So examples of persuasion would be sales presentations, project proposals, and campaign speeches. Also, these examples all aim to convince listeners. So here, the audience is convinced to change attitudes or behaviors or to accept one's point of view. So normally, the speaker is trying to conceive all his listeners whether to disagree or agree. But the main purpose of the speaker is to agree with your point of view or presentation or proposal. We also have here to entertain. So typically, the speaker's purpose when he is trying to entertain is to amuse its listeners by letting them enjoy and lose their boredom. An example would be after dinner speeches and stand-up comedies. So this purpose is very used in many situations because when you entertain, it is just like a formal conversation. And we also have here to inspire. So mainly when the speaker is trying to inspire, its main purpose is to motivate them to achieve noble goals or ideals. So for example, a guest speaker inspires graduating students to become more successful and reach their goals in especially liturgical sermons. So liturgical sermons give inspirational messages which motivate a person to be a better individual and to be more successful. So these are some of the speaker's purpose, why or he or she is trying to deliver his speech through communication. We also have here some types of oral communication. So there are numerous samples of oral communication activities, and according to the University of Pittsburgh, there are 6 broad types of oral communication activities that might be incorporated into curricula in many fields of study. Most are conducive to either formal or informal assignments. Also, some are realistically possible only in smaller classes or recitation sections, while others are appropriate for large lectures as well. So on their own, any of them can help students. So whether it's in recitation sections, whether it's for larger lectures, it could help students and learn their course materials and ways of thinking. So incorporated more systematically into a broader curriculum or major, they can together help move students to become more proficient speakers by the time they graduate. So they the students will learn to speak and they are speaking to learn. So we have here some types of oral communication. So we have one-on-one speaking, or student to student or student to teacher. So basically this can range from moments punctuating a lecture where students are asked to discuss or explain some question or problem with the person next to them to formal student conferences with their instructors. So there is just a speaker and a receiver, and there is just a one-on-one moment between a student and a teacher. Also have small group or team-based oral work. So smaller scale settings for discussion, deliberation, and problem solving. It is appropriate for both large lectures and smaller classes and allows levels of participation not possible in larger groups. Typically, this is just used for a small group, and if you wanted to discuss something like a discussion and your plans and problem solving. So this type of oral communication is used for a smaller scale setting. Next, we have the full class discussion. So this type of oral communication is typically less agonistic, argument-based, and competitive than debate and deliberation, but still dialogic in character. So oftentimes has the quality of creating an atmosphere of collective, out loud thinking about some question, idea, problem, text, event, or artifact. So like deliberation and debate, a good way to encourage active learning. So basically, if you have this full class discussions, these are the teacher or student led or teacher, and then there are numbers of students that are listening to your discussion. And this is a good way to encourage active learning because there are um, brainstorming involved and question and ideas and interactions that are being involved in such that students can learn from one another as well. So we also have in-class debates and deliberations. So this is a structured consideration of some issue from two or more points of view. So debates typically involves participants who argue on site throughout, while deliberation allows for movement by individuals within the process. So both feature reason giving argument. This can be applied to issues of many kinds, from disputed scientific facts to theories, policy questions, the meaning of a text, or the quality of an artistic production. This can range from two participants to a lecture hall. So if you have this in-class debates and deliberations, there is an issue that is being argued, and there is a reason giving argument as well. So there is a brainstorming involved, questions, ideas, and also it encourages active learning because you are able to communicate your own opinions and ideas orally. Now we have speeches and presentations. So classically, the stand-up podium speech delivered by an individual from an outline or script. Basically, these speeches and presentations are memorized or impromptu, or it depends on the speaker. So also includes group presentations or impromptu speaking, is what I've said, and a strong element of monologue, but dialogue can be built in with question and answer or discussion with the audience afterward. Usually with speeches and presentations, there are questions being asked during the presentation, or there are questions that you could ask after the presentation. So during the presentation, you may write down your questions and you may ask the speaker when he or she had ended his or her presentation. And last, for our type of oral communication, we have oral examination. So for oral examination, it could take place in the instructor's office, in small groups, or before a whole class range. So it also ranges from one oral question on an otherwise written exam to an oral defense of a written answer or paper to an entirely oral quiz or examination. So basically, it's like a recitation or a group defense. It is difficult with very large groups, but an excellent way to determine the depth and range of student knowledge and to simulate high levels of preparation. So for all communicate examination, you may determine the student knowledge of what they have acquired through the process of learning all throughout, and also they will be also be prepared by talking orally through communicating their defense or their exam or quiz as well. So these are the types of oral communication. Again, we have the one-on-one speaking. We have the small group or team-based oral work. We have the full class discussions and in-class debates and deliberations. We also have speeches and presentations and oral examination. So these are the types of oral communication. So we had already discussed the functions of communication, and now we had responded to an effective communication considering gender roles in home and society on a day-to-day interaction through identifying the speaker's purpose and through the types of through knowing the types of oral communication. So before I end this lesson, um, I would like you to get your handouts and refer to your handouts. We have 3 activities. You may answer all the activities, but I will just require you to answer activity 2. So for activity 2, you have to explain and justify in 5 sentences what function of communication is being portrayed in each picture. So we have information, regulation, control, motivation, social interaction, and emotional appeal. These are the functions of communication. So on your handouts or on your PDF copies, we have 6 pictures, and you have to identify each picture through the functions of what function of communication is being portrayed. You may just limit your sentences only into 5 sentences, and I will fully accept it. So you may also answer activity 1, which is also an essay type of activity, and also activity 3, an essay type, and you will just refer to the picture that was printed on your handouts or was um, displayed on your PDF file. But again, as what I've said, you may just submit only activity number 2. So if you have any questions regarding the activity, don't hesitate to ask me. You may reach me through my personal FB account through Facebook Messenger, or you may personally ask me at school. Also, if you have questions regarding our topic for this week, which is functions of communication, don't hesitate to ask me as well. You may reach me through my Facebook account, through Facebook Messenger, or you may personally ask me at school. So once again, we have finished this topic for our week, and we have fully learned the functions of communication because I have given you that as an activity. So I hope you will answer it. And we have responded to an effective communication considering gender roles in home and society on a day-to-day interaction. So we also have some references. So in your handouts, we have you may read Teacher's Manual for Oral Communication in Context for Senior High School, retrieved from this website, www.teacherph.com, Teaching Guide Oral Communication Context from the PET. Also, we have a website, https://courses.lumenlearning.com. So those are some of the references. And if you want to further learn more about our topic for the week, we have some suggested readings. So we have Oral Communication in Context, a textbook for senior high school by Apolonio Joshua from Unlimited Books Intramuros, Manila. And also a website from en.islcollective.com, English ESL worksheets, vocabulary, people, what are they saying? So those are some of the suggested readings that you might want to consider for the functions of communication week 4 topic for oral communication in context. So if you have any questions, once again, don't hesitate to ask me. I would like to end the lesson for saying thank you and by sharing a Bible verse from the book of Mark, chapter 9, verse 23. So said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. So nothing is impossible from God, and if you believe and if you have faith, so you may able to have what you want, and it is not impossible. So thank you once again, and this I will end now the week for discussion.